As you see in this state, here is the worst part that you can get at Klippieville. Because all the taps on top, the water comes down, and it comes down here because there's no draining water that directs the water to go into a right direction, and then it can go to a drain system.
Nkopani is the Community Forum Chairman in Klippieville, and he's looking for partners to address some of the key challenges of the residents.
Can you tell us about the challenges? I've been here for a long time, but I saw the people are struggling to get a place where they can keep their kids safe when they are going to work.
The hope for the future is to get a safe environment and also to send the teachers that are already working into the preschool for a training that they can be qualified.
Another key issue is the need of medical care in the township. Marissa has no transport, so when her son got burnt, she didn't know what to do.
Om vervoer te kry, dan wat is eindelijk toe kry daar ook vervoer maar ek moet ook maar betaal en ek het ook nie altyd die geld daarvoor nie.
The community is therefore urgently needing a medical clinic, which can ideally be situated next to the existing Josiah Trust containers.
That little video was made by my two sons, Jason and John Mark. They're very proud of their work, but obviously they got a tutor that helps them with their little making of the videos. And so that was just to give you a bit of an idea of the look of the area that I spoke about in the sermon this morning. And the word Klippieville that appears on there means stone hill in English. It's an Afrikaans word. And so if I talk about stone hill, in South Africa, nobody knows what I'm talking about, but in America, we'll use the word Stone Hill. We call it our Stone Hill project. And so that's it over there. I'm going to go on to show some, I just wanted to show you how things are looking there. Let's move on to, I want to show you some of the ministry projects we're involved with. The little children you saw in that movie, we're wanting to move them over to our base for security and put up a decent place for them. You couldn't see very clearly because you were inside the hut over there and you saw the white walls. That's just paper hanging on wood that's been smacked together in a little shack. And outside they've got a small little area to play. So out of those children there, I'd be very surprised if any of them have a father at home. There'll be a man at home, but it'll just be a boyfriend and we'll move out late and a new one will come in. And so we want to really start impacting their lives, start with an early childhood development center, and then start moving on from there to different grades to educate the children. But we'll go a little bit further away. This is my website, missionaryinafrica.com. If you'd like to visit it. Joel spoke a little earlier about the St. James Massacre, the attack on our church by terrorists in 1993. So I'll show you just a couple of photos of what went on there so that you can visualize it. I was sitting fourth row from the back over there. Terrorists came in at this part over here, and they lobbed their hand grenades into the congregation. They opened up fire with the automatic rifles. One young man, 25-year-old Gerald Harker, had a grenade land next to him in the pew. He fell on top of it to protect the other people sitting around him. Obviously, he was dead on impact. His little brother died next to him. A little boy at the back over there was sitting with two young girls. 17-year-old Richard O'Keel. Richard and the one girl fell onto the ground to get as low as possible like everybody else did when the attack started. And little Bonnie, his friend, was frozen stiff. She couldn't move. She was just staring at the attackers who came in at the bottom over here. And Richard went up onto his knees to pull Bonnie down, and as he ripped her down onto the ground, he took a bullet in the back of the head trying to save her. So that's some of the look. Here is an area where we had, there was a bench there. It's just been blown away completely with a hole in the floor from the grenade blast. And that grenade landed in this man's lap and blew off both his legs and one arm. And so his name is Dmitry Makagon. He stayed in South Africa after that. He was a Russian sailor going around the Cape, the southern part of Africa, to the east, and the church had an outreach to these sailors, bring them through. They worshipped with us, singing at the beginning of the service, and then they go through to another hall, classroom, where they would have a service in their own local tongue. But the attack took place while they were still with us in the main sanctuary. Just another angle of where that happened. 11 people were murdered and over 50 were injured that evening. There's a Bible. And so, as Joel mentioned, I took the gospel of Jesus Christ through to the terrorist that I hit when I shot back at them. I hit him on his hand. Blood got onto the getaway car seat, and he was caught. I had to appear in court against him, and then went to visit him in jail on many occasions. The head of the attackers, Lateral, the director of operations of the terrorist organization, I reached out to him with the gospel. He was a man that said he did house-to-house gospel outreach visitations before. He said, but the Christians had nothing to teach us on social justice, on economics, or anything like that. He said, but Stalin and Lenin have spoken about these things, and so therefore I couldn't be a Christian any longer. Very, very intellectual man. And how disastrous is that, to say that? Christians have nothing. Our people are suffering. They're poor. We're fighting an unhelpful government. The Christians have got nothing to say on economics or politics, so I can't carry on being a Christian. Since then, we got involved with lots of outreaches in Africa. Worked with Peter Hammond, who you had as a guest here a while back, Frontline Fellowship. We still do projects together. We do outreaches and things together. We go to the pro-life demos and all these sorts of things that are happening. One of the areas that we're very involved is with youth camps for young ladies and the boys. You can't put them together in Africa, as I've mentioned before. There's just chaos. And so this car over here, was put together by a bunch of elderly teenage boys. I think it's got an Isuzu body with Toyota wheels and maybe, I don't know, Jaguar's engine or something. It's just smacked together. It's got no registration, completely unroadworthy. They put all these kids on the back and they drive about 80 miles on the national road to come drop off the kids at the camp. So this is a Wangi Nature Reserve where Cecil was shot dead, the lion. Did anybody hear about that? Okay, it's that area. So nobody comes to hunt there anymore. Nothing's going on. It's dead quiet. And we can run our camps in the main tourist attraction area there. And so you'll at night see giraffe and zebra and antelope and it all around you while you're walking between the different buildings in this area. So the white boys are mine, and just some of the guys together at the camp. These children are so taken up with the camp that when they went home, their parents came to us and said, we've heard interesting things about this camp. Did this really happen? And it's the food they got. Many of them didn't know what a normal bed looked like, and so they're complaining about being cold at night. And when my colleague went to look at them, these kids are lying under a duvet. They didn't know that you get in between the sheets under the blanket. They're used to lying on top of blankets on soil. And so this was fascinating. They didn't know what the little cloth next to your plate is for, the white cloth that's standing up in a funny way like a hat. We call it a serviette, you call it a napkin, am I right? They didn't want to touch that in case they dirtied it with their hands. It's like, what is this for? And then one of the kids came to my colleague and shouted, Uncle Cosmo, did you see me at lunchtime? It's like, oh, geez, there's so many kids around. I ate with a knife and fork. So it's very, very exciting. Where Cosmo is with my son Jason, they're busy organizing the time of friendship and sport and games and that sort of thing. We also get involved with chicken farming, rabbit farming. This is a chicken farming little project that we got running for a pastor who is earning less than $5 a week, overseeing 8 churches in the bush in Zimbabwe. These people have absolutely nothing. That's his wife over there running the project. We help them with rabbit farming, building a rabbit cage there for them. And that pastor died a couple of weeks ago, and his family has to move out of the manse now. But they were so poor that my friend said when he went to the just before the funeral, as they were preparing for the funeral, he heard the family talking about the fact that there's no money to buy a casket or a coffin. And so they were going to break a cupboard up to use the wood to make the casket. And praise God, we managed to help them and get sorted out in that. But this is somebody for years and years and years has been serving 9 churches, 8 other churches, and his own, who would have to move around by bus, by walking, by taxi to be able to visit these places in the bush, because there's no young guys that want to come from seminary or from Bible college into the bush and work there, because there's nothing there. And so it's really tough for these guys. We also take in clothing. They passed a law in Zimbabwe now that it's illegal to bring in second-hand clothing into the country, which is really stupid, because who gets second-hand clothing? It's only the poor. You know, in these countries where, in communist countries, there are rich people around. You have the rich and the poor. There's no middle class. And so when you're banning second-hand clothes, the poor are the ones that are getting nothing. Anyway, we don't care two hoots what evil governments say. We smuggle in our clothes. So we put into pillow slips like this, and we drive over the border. And then we get inside, we dump all the clothes out of the pillow slips, and we can hand it out without any intervention. So here the girls are. They love their pillowcase dresses. These are sewed up here in America by ladies in churches who get together and have pillowcase dress making parties. And so we're very thankful for that. I've got 92 dresses to take back with to Africa now for December, so there are going to be some really happy girls for Christmas, which we celebrate big time as a gospel outreach in our various areas. Before they change the law, we just try and get a whole truckload in at a time. These clothes like this can literally cause a riot. It's really difficult to keep control under these circumstances. We try and support pastors. We help them with feeding schemes. There's no such thing as this is Charl's ministry. As I mentioned before, it's a matter of we work with people, we network with them, we help wherever we can, and we try and make a difference through relationships and hard work. This was a witch that came to faith in Christ. She came to one of our crusades that we had, an outreach. I don't have that picture. And we went to hunt her down. She came to the first night of the crusade. She showed interest in the gospel. She didn't come the next night. So we realized she's blind, she's old, and so we went out to look for her. And we had to walk through fields that were burning fire, preparing for the preparation for the rainy season for planting. We eventually found her here with the man that helped with the crusade there, the pastor. And she was a good witch. She's the one that helped people if they are sick. They come to her for help, and she gives them herbs and things to get better. One of the items she would use was a little suction. I think I mentioned it last time I was here, which she put on your arm. She'd cut into your skin, draw blood, and she'd suck it through this little vacuum into her mouth, your blood. And then she'll decide how she can help you and what herbs she needs to be able to prepare for you. When she came to faith in Christ, what do you think we did with all those goodies? Burn them. And when they burnt, you could see her face, her whole demeanor, everything changed completely. Set free by the gospel and burning of the little bones and things that she used. Church buildings, we try not to do everything for people, so we'll get a couple of $1,000s together through supporters and our own finances, and we try and help people, and so yeah, we're helping a bit with the roof and putting up security gates and that, and it's just unbelievable. These people have nothing, but the costs out there to do anything out in the bush is just unbelievable. You know, to be able to get welding machines and to be able to weld gates and things, it's a lot of hard work. Another building we're putting up to use as a school and a church, Lord willing, that'll get going in the future. Everything takes time. Everything is slow. Part of the African world view and ideas is the longer something takes, the more difficult it is, the more important you are in solving the problems. So if there aren't problems, they cause problems. They make problems, because if they solve those problems, they're very important. And so there's always chaos. If there isn't chaos, they make chaos. And we try and help with orphan feeding. Obviously, not all the children are orphans. Sometimes, if there are Christian orphanages around, parents, because they're so poor, will just try and get their kids in there, just so that they don't have to be responsible, number one, and second of all, their children can be fed properly and educated properly. In the area that I showed you the little movie of, in Stone Hill, one of the girls in one of the ministries called Dream Girls that my wife's involved with is a very, very bright young girl. Obviously, they can't afford to go to decent school, so people have got together and they put money together to send this girl to another school where she can be better educated. And since then, her mother doesn't want to work anymore. So she had a job, which is, I mean, it's great to have a job, working 5 days a week. Now she only works 2 or 3 days a week because why does she need to work? Somebody else is paying for her daughter's education. So that's the kind of people we're dealing with. You have a competition with vegetable gardens. Let's say you can have the best vegetables in the gardens, and everybody's excited, or the gardens are going. And once you have the competition, somebody's won the prize, everything goes to pot. Nobody worries about the gardens anymore. So, and this is the kind of worldview you're dealing with. This is the kind of people, the way they think. Our executive director, Steve Evers of In Touch Mission International, says, from Tempe, Arizona, he says, where I come from, if somebody's doing a great job with something, and you come alongside them and they help them, they do greater work, they do fantastic things. He says, why is it in Africa when we help people, they mess up everything? And so, but that's what we're dealing with in these different areas. So we're doing Maysville Work, feeding people in Zambia, where we put you can't see it here, but there's a little tract and a school book for writing in, a little exercise book. That goes inside the maize mill. So when people open up, they're getting a gospel message, gospel of the kingdom is being preached, and they get a little school book for the kids, which is almost impossible for them to afford. And they're paying normal price. So they're getting a little bit of extra thing to buy that Christian's maize meal, which obviously supports ministry, it provides jobs, and the missionary is busy organizing this, but the locals do absolutely everything. And so the local chief is just ecstatic that somebody's buying the extra crops from his people. This is big capitalism, free market stuff for them, where they're now growing extra maize because there's a system to put it into that gets sold. They're getting cash up front. They don't have to wait for the government to pay them 6 months later, if at all, when they sell to the state and all that sort of thing. So we, by God's grace, are buying one of these maize mills right now in Zimbabwe, near Victoria Falls, the town of Victoria Falls, named after, what? Victoria Falls. We're going to put up one of these. And the idea there, again, is to use the free market. People bring their maize to be milled, because at the moment they've got to walk loads and loads of miles to be able to get it done. They've got to pay very high prices for it. So we're going to have one at a local mission base there. So if they can't afford to pay for it to have it milled, then they leave a portion of the milled maize behind, and that'll be used for feeding orphans and widows in the area. And the widows can come and their little bit that they grow, they can be done for free. So we don't believe in being fair. Widows and orphans get special treatment. We also have Bibles and bicycles that we spread out. The pastors get their bicycles so more effective. One pastor was so excited. He said, what would normally take me hours to get across the village when I'm asked to come and pray for somebody that's sick, he said, now it takes minutes on my bicycle. Very effective. I mean, they can go where cars and 4x4 vehicles can't even get into with their bicycles. So they're very excited about that. One of my bishop friends went to hand over a bicycle to another bishop in another area, and he came back flabbergasted. Is that an American word? Shocked. The other bishop's wife came out the house. She went and put on a pair of slacks and got onto the bicycle and rode it. Horrified. How can a woman put on slacks, pants? It is absolutely disgraceful. He was shocked to the core. Anyway, so we hand out good literature. In Mozambique, the people said the communists came and taught us to read. No, the Christians came and taught us to read, but the communists gave us something to read. So we have this challenge. We need 100 million Bibles in Africa. So we have a Bibles and Bikes Fund, handing out good literature to the people. That's the pastor, Pastor Penny, that passed away with the issue of the casket. Also have Crusades. This is a friend of mine that was our guest speaker from America, American businessman, elder in the church at the time, and or deacon I should say, Reformed guy from a PCA church, and when he preaches here, you have people falling on the ground, writhing around like snakes on the ground, evil spirits leaving people, and you'd probably be shocked to the core. And that's because of the preaching of the gospel. It wasn't a charismatic, crazy service. It wasn't charismatic television in the West. It was the real thing. And this is where the witch came to faith in Christ. We're hearing the gospel here. The tribal head, the chief of the area, came to faith in Christ through this. And this is preaching God's word. Reformed people standing out there. The bishop that I was working with here, post-millennial, Reformed, and this is what goes on there. People falling over, deliverance services amongst the Reformed people. That's why I said we're a bit confused over there on the other side of the ocean. We do preaching, teaching, biblical worldview training. This is in Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which isn't democratic or a republic. It's an amazing church over there. About 3,000 people in the service on a Sunday morning. They have a radio station. They have a television station citywide. They are doing amazing work in the education world. It's just so radical. And the bishop of this church, his desire, his goal is to see a league of Christian nations in Africa. Isn't that exciting? Wow. Do you guys want to join? They have a university. Total pagan kids coming to the Christian university, private university, can only be better than a state university. They don't allow their buildings to be burnt. Kids will get a fat thrashing. And here we're taking in people to come and preach. We're still trying to get Joel and John to come over. They've been very stubborn so far. So if you guys can put a bit of pressure on from this side, we'd really appreciate it. They're certainly not listening to my begging yet. A friend of mine's father, or my pastor's father, he's a missionary to Africa for many, many years. He's back in Oklahoma now. He's now become a pastor to the missionaries, doing fantastic work. So they fly over, they come do work in Ethiopia and South Africa and all these different areas. This is him being interviewed for television in the Congo for the citywide TV. Basically, if missionaries are going through tough times, believe it that we on odd occasions have satanic attacks and terrible things happening. We even have relationship problems. Can you believe it? And when they come in to help you, there's no paperwork. So you don't get reported to your mission organization to say that your child is being very naughty at home. And so it's an amazing ministry. They'll fly in and help and be a blessing and very gracious. That's Bishop Lamba Lamba over there, the visionary who wants to see a League of Christian Nations. He's got a great love for the youth and wanting to see biblical worldview being infused into these children. We also do sport ministry. Anywhere in Africa you can pick up a soccer ball and have your own ministry straight away. Everybody comes down to the field, they do training. This is the time when I pull out my camera. I'm not going to run around with these kids. I can't even see the ball the way they kick it so hard and fast. And so it's lots of fun. Lots of discipline gets handed out. If there's any swearing or anything like that, it gets sorted out immediately. And afterwards we have a gospel conversation after the game. At this particular time, my friend Cosmo over there was talking to the children, talking about what sin is. And as he was talking about it, the one little boy said, I know a person who does all the sin you're talking about. It's John over there. Well, isn't that amazing? I always wonder too, and I hear a great sermon if my wife and children are listening. And it's like, John's one of those. He does it. And Cosmo said to me, if I was John, I would have beaten that kid senseless. You're pretty rough in Africa. Everybody wants to fight. So that's why we do a lot of wrestling with the kids and take them off to the beach and let them run. And Tanki, who's the chairman of our Soldiers for Christ, he was telling Mabuti, the community leader, how much fitter he is, how much stronger than you, and how much fitter. And Mabuti says, what are you talking about, man? You're useless. I'm much fitter than you are. So anyway, I took the guys to the beach. They have to do press-ups. They have to run a distance in a certain time. They have to do sit-ups and pull-ups to earn a Soldiers for Christ t-shirt. And so I told them, this is really great in Africa. The chief, that would be me, I sit and watch them while I tell them what to do. So I don't have to run with them or anything, because that would be far below me, And that's normal. That's very acceptable. And so they run for this mile, and they come back, and Tanki is wrecked. Uncle, you're an uncle. In Africa, if you're an uncle, Joel comes here, he'll have 100,000 children calling him uncle. And so, uncle, my ears, they messed up, and my nose, and my eyes. And Tanki, just keep quiet and go sit in the car. And we get back to the squatter camp, and my brother-in-law's there. He's a medical doctor. He checks Tanki out, and he says, Tanki, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just jolly well unfit. And this is after bragging about how strong he is, and so it's pretty interesting. So we're looking at an early childhood development center. We've started one in the Congo, in Lubumbashi, very, very poor area. So here's the building we put up. It's very difficult to see on this photograph. And there's the walls. You might not see it. It's made out of orange plastic. That's the walls. We're hoping to put brick and mortar up at some stage. So here is a school, creche, preschool. And hopefully we'll develop from there. By God's grace, there's also a church that's wanting to use these facilities now. And anybody can walk up with a knife, slit the wall open and go steal something inside. But that's the way things work over here. So we're very excited about that. This is back in the Stone Hill in South Africa with these little children. We're looking at setting up an early childhood development center there for them too. That's the building I showed plans of when I previously came here, of what we were desiring to do. I think I showed you some of the containers without the roof. Well, praise the Lord, the roof is up. And we have our containers, which one is a kitchen, 2 classrooms, and then a gym to where they can get rid of all their energy. We're doing our Christmas outreach. We have boxes done for the girls and for the boys with lovely gifts and that in for them. It's a very, very exciting time. Great gospel opportunity. Everybody becomes a Christian at Christmas time in the township. We call it a township, in the squatter camp. We were blessed with funds to buy mattresses. These children normally sleep on just a blanket on the floor and a mud floor inside their little metal huts, which you saw in the video just now. So by God's grace, they were given these mattresses with plastic over it. The plastic probably never taken off, so because the roofs leak and you get dampness coming up from under the ground in their houses, their little sheet metal huts. And so this is extremely exciting time. My brother-in-law, was second in the world in a world champion kickboxing competition in Florida. So he does all the kickboxing and wrestling with the kids. And he beats them senseless, and it's a big thing. They always rip each other off because a white man beat them. And so they really enjoy him. And nobody will believe he's 50 years old. If you're 50 in their community, you've got a walking stick and you're going to die soon. The age for dying is very low in Africa because of the foods they eat or don't eat and that sort of thing. And so if you're 50, nobody will believe I'm almost 50. They think you're lying to them. You see this. So yeah, off with their mattresses. Just thrilled to have this. You'll probably get 3 to 4 children sleeping on that if the parents don't steal it from the kids. At the moment, we're wanting to light up their huts. There's no electricity there. And so we're looking at these for Christmas. And it lights up beautifully. They can study with it at night. Our end of the year exams are happening right now in South Africa. Our educational year ends in December, starts up again in January. And so these are $23 each, and we're trying to raise funds so that we can light up the huts at night in the area. And they can charge their cell phones on it. And we have a generator in the area, and they can charge their lights on our generator. And so that is it. If you'd like to ask any questions, please feel free to do that. Let's close this off. Any questions, any comments? Yes, Beth?
I'm just curious. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. You talked about the pastor who died and not having a casket serving 9 different churches. In those churches, if they knew that need, could they not fill, I mean, is that how poor we're talking? They couldn't, between them, fill that need for a casket?
Yes. Those 8 churches putting their funds together give him $5 a week.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're very, very poor. Those children that we take on the camps in Zimbabwe, they would be illegally fishing in a river to feed their grandpa and grandmother at home because there's no food. And there's a drought on there right now. Yesterday I was discussing with my friend Cosmo. I said, hey, well done on getting a truckload of food. They've been raising funds here in the West. They've taken a truckload of food to 5 villages. And he said to me, it's the normal problem, more people and food. That was yesterday, last night, while I was in the Uber coming over here. And so it's very tough, it's very hard. Drought doesn't help at all, rivers are dry. And then 2 kids have been attacked by crocodiles because they go down to the river to fish to feed the family. It's already illegal to fish in the river because they're trying to, government tries to control every area of our lives over there. And 2 kids have been mauled. Both lived. Yeah, praise God for that. So, any other comments or questions?
Thank you so much for that. Can you just
Thank you.
kind of explain a little bit about the dynamics of the relationship between the whites and blacks over there, and maybe also, the church, in more of the maybe wealthy areas, and how that dynamic kind of plays out?
Okay. I've planted or been part of a group that planted a church in a wealthy area. They are sending church out as missionaries. So, very good question. We try to get as involved as we can in the areas that are poor. This area with no electricity and running water that only runs on the odd occasion is 10 miles from us. And so when I'm talking about this ministry here, this is not me. There's stacks of people involved. My wife's involved with the Dream Girls. We've got a sport ministry. We have an education ministry helping with science and maths, you call it math, lessons after school. We have a soup kitchen that started. So there's a Dutch Reformed church that gives the meat and the soup for the kitchen, but these people do all the work in generating that. And so the wealthy people, we try and get them engaged. And we've set up a trust called the Josiah Trust. I don't want to mix up your minds with all the different names of everything, but we set up the Josiah Trust. And the idea for that is even pagans who want to be a blessing can come and give things to it. And we have a challenge, because when you do something like this, and by God's grace you're successful, everybody wants to be a part of it. But while you're slogging away to get things going in the beginning, nobody's interested. But the other challenge we have is larger churches that want to come in and we'll do the discipleship with your youth. No, you won't. Get out of here. We're very tight on who preaches on a Sunday evening at our gospel service, who's running our Bible studies, and, if you want to, if other churches will let them look after the children, the little tiny ones, run programs for them. But when the kids are learning scripture and we take that responsibility. And if you want to go get your own land somewhere else, that's fine. But we control good, reform, solid teaching on our land. And so we've got people saying, we want to come put a crate on your land, a container. We want to teach woodwork, and we want to do this. Well, you can donate the container to us, and you can't teach theology. No Bible studies, we'll do that. But you're welcome to teach some woodwork if you like. So we're very strict. We've got a strong hold on what we do. And you can get manipulated so quickly. Everything in Africa is about manipulation, theft, stealing, trying to rip you off. That's Africa. You've got to watch everything all the time. When I was in the room next door here, I asked if I went to the bathroom if somebody would steal my Bible. And Beth said, no, it hasn't happened yet, but you never know. So relationship between blacks and whites, very good. In many circumstances, the issue that we have in South Africa is that the politicians use the black-white issue as to cause havoc politically. And so we've got a whole new group of people in South Africa who don't even know what apartheid was. They're voting now in South Africa. For the first time, we're seeing a massive swing away from Nelson Mandela's African National Congress in the cities, because these people, they've been born free. If you want to call it that. Not free as in terms of God's law, but free that they can vote and live where they want to and all that sort of thing. And so it's really interesting. I brought up the topic of race amongst my soldiers for Christ. And these are kids that are late teens, early 20s. And I asked them to, let's talk about this. Let's deal with this issue. Their complaint, in all their complaints amongst the 12 kids, not one of their complaints was against a white man. They were complaining about how badly they were being treated by fellow blacks, which I thought was quite novel. And historically in South Africa, all the bloodshed and that you see of what was going on in our country, while the whites were ruling, the fighting and the killing and the murdering was between factions of black people who were vying to take over the government in South Africa. And your State Department backed the communist groups. They're very conservative, God-fearing, black political groups in South Africa that would have instituted democratic rule with good free market economics and all that sort of thing, and the rest of the world backed the bad guys. And so they're in Parliament now. So instead of having 20 murders in 10 years or 15 years, we now have 20,000 murders a year in South Africa. The girls in the township told my wife, we're dead scared to live here. I was at a seminar where a white man stood up and bragged about his daughter who's going to marry as a virgin. And he told everybody about it. He bragged about it. And one of the black girls, a colleague of mine, stood up. She said, how can your daughter be a virgin? Has she never walked outside your house before? Because that's their thinking. The man needs you, he wants you, you give it to him. It won't be called rape. It won't be written down at the police station. It won't be recorded. No charges will be laid. The man gets whatever he wants, the desires of his heart. So that's what we're dealing with. And we're going in there and saying, no! To hell with the man. And so we got to deal with these kids and these boys. And one of the guys, when they earn a Soldiers for Christ t-shirt, if they're found to be messing around with the girls, the t-shirt comes back. You start again. Learning the 10 Commandments, the Apostles' Creed, doing all your exercises, discipline. And you'll have meetings and half of them won't arrive. Next time, all of them will be there. And there's no responsibility, there's no discipline, there's no nothing. You're starting from scratch with these kids, building it up. They don't see it around them anyway. And the other interesting thing is, one of the most highly looked upon men in the township, who has a family, he's taken on a wife who obviously had other children, that's normal, but he treats those other children like his own. He stands out in the township. His philosophy of life, he's a communist. And so, how's that for competition? You know, what are we doing to show the love of Christ and how godly families look amongst these kids? And the communists are setting the example there. His party leader said a few days ago, when I got to the States, that we're not going to start murdering the whites in South Africa yet. In other words, the time's coming, but we're not going to do it yet. There'll be a genocide later. And these terrorists that attacked our church, when I took the gospel to them, they said to me, we're preparing for the second revolution. In other words, the first one didn't go far enough. So that's what we're up against in South Africa. So we really appreciate your prayers for that. Zimbabwe is chaotic. It's falling to pieces. Robert Mugabe, the dictator's in his 90s, and the crazier he gets crazier and crazier as he gets older and older. And that's where we have this Baptist pastor now who's had to flee the country because of the death threats against him. Oh, that was a long-winded answer.
No, it was
yes,
good.
Please.
In your sermon this morning and now, I'm finding that in order really to do your job, you have to ignore some of the laws.
Yes.
And you know, do what's right despite the
Yes.
laws. And I'm finding that here in America, we have to go beyond what is socially acceptable or politically correct in order to do God's work. You know, we're not supposed to talk about homosexuality and all these hot topics, but that's where, you know, that's where we're needed the most. So and there was so much that you said this morning about training and you know, in discipleship, you have to train people how to do this.
Yes.
I mean, it's not something that's just, you know, it's certainly not taught in the government schools.
No.
So,
Government schools, the kids that are there have to be untaught.
yes, they're conditioned,
Yes.
right, to go along with whatever the law or whatever it, which leads me kind of to something I've been praying about for a while. I would really like this, all Q&A sessions to be off the video, because I think we really need to share and open up about things that we're coming up against. And
Oh, we can edit out what I said when I said hell just now.
well, for me,
I didn't mean it.
I
I'm
like
joking.
to say
I'm
things.
joking.
I
Yes.
like to, you know, come out with things like, you know, what I'm coming up against too. I'm finding a lot of this stuff. I'm kind of an activist in that.
Oh, praise the
There
Lord
are
for
some
that.
warriors in this room, but I want to feel free to talk about this and not, you know, think so.
No.
That's my request to whoever's listening.
I'll lay hands on you so that you'll feel free with the camera running.
Yeah.
I have a question. I've heard that there's quite a few revivals going on in places like Nigeria and stuff like that. And has that had any impact on you? Are you familiar with that?
Yes. Yeah.
And also I want you to know that the reverse racism is really getting fierce in this country too. That it's very fashionable to hate white people, ask for their deaths and all that. So this is not just a South African phenomenon, it's happening here too.
Yes.
So
You normally find that the race issues and all these sorts of things are normally a very, very tiny minority that are involved in that kind of rhetoric, but that's what gets published and thrown over the newspapers and the internet and everything, because you can't attract advertisers and sell newspapers by saying everybody's loving each other and working very well together. So you don't see it a lot around you, but you know it's out there. And I've spoken, I'll take any meeting anywhere. I've spoken at former terrorist organization meetings, I've spoken at white supremacist group meetings, but these are all minority groups. They're really, really small. It took 4 attackers to control the psyche of the whole of South Africa after they attacked our church. That's what terrorism is all about. And so you've got 4 guys that control 55 million people in 20 seconds. And so these are the sorts of things that happen, you know. I don't know if I answered your question. You're more of a comment. But the way of dealing of it is that we at the church need to get on with what we need to do. And we're going to get nailed, and people are going to hate us, and we're going to make mistakes, which is even worse. But the challenge we have is that we're not training up our people. I mean, I got an SMS, WhatsApp the other day, and Tunky, our little chairman, is saying, we've got to teach our people how to debate. Yes, praise the Lord, the penny's dropped. We've got to teach our young guys at Soldiers for Christ how to debate, because they need to go stand up against traditional African religions, and at school they've got to nail the humanists, and so, you know, the penny's dropped. These guys are getting it. So it's really exciting.
We need that too.
Yes, we need it too. Yeah, everybody needs it. We need to know how to debate. We need to know how to deal with these issues. There's a great book called Confrontational Politics that Gun Owners of America distributes here, which just shows you how when you're dealing with the liberals, they'll lie to you in your face. They don't care. They'll use false statistics and everything, because all of, you know, fighting for a just cause at the end of the day, and the end justifies the means. And the poor Christian sitting there who doesn't tell lies and doesn't want to you know, attack anybody, doesn't know how to deal with us. And so they tell you in the book how to do it, which is very exciting from a Western perspective. I thought it was a novel book to read. Any other comments?
About the wealthy class in the Congo, what is their demographic? Do they have, one, where do they get their money? Why are they wealthy?
Okay.
Is it because of, are they applying biblical principles? Is that why they're wealthy? Are they all the white class, or is there any, can you tell me more about
very
this?
good question. You know, in the old days in China and Russia, the communists were poor like everybody else. In other words, their philosophy is really worked out in every area of their lives. In Africa, it's a bit different. The communists in power will have communism for everybody else, but they have the free market for themselves. So even in Angola, there's one oil company in Angola which no communist laws apply to. Who runs it? The president's daughter. Free market economics for that company. They can do business with anybody in the world, but nobody else can. And that company is what finances the government. So they know where their bread is buttered. And so it's a matter of free market for me, communism for you. So in the rich, the very wealthy people generally in Africa are somehow connected to the civil government. In other words, they're getting contracts, they're friends, and you know, your friend gets a $10 million contract to provide computers for the government or whatever, and they'll do nothing except take 20% of the money and give the contract to somebody who actually does the work. And so this is the way they filter it, and then you have to give the money back to the party for the next elections again from the money you've got to the deal, which you did nothing for. It's that kind of thing. In one area in South Africa, you can't get any government job whatsoever unless you're a card-carrying member of Nelson Mandela's party, the African National Congress. You won't get a job. And so that's the way they work. And so you get lovely Christian people that are very wealthy in these areas, but they might have made it through mining. They got a mining concession. How they got the concession, I don't know. They might have had to pay for it. I don't know. Maybe they had a friend in government. That's the way things work. It's everything about who you know, what you know, and they try and squash out the free market if they can, if they see it as a threat. I hope it answers your question. Everything's complicated over there. Yeah.
Charl, Right here. So.
Here we go. Thanks.
It makes a lot of sense why you are so protective over who you allow to teach in your programs and in your ministries. But for groups from the outside who do want to support, when they can come and help, in what ways can they help? And I suppose another question is, how often do groups from the outside come in to help, say from the U.S., and what does it take for a group to come and help?
Okay.
What do those logistics look like?
All right. Very good question. The groups I've dealt with so far are reasonably small. You know, there's, for instance, at Frontline Fellowship, when we were running camps and things, at the most you're looking at 100 people. And so you'd go out into these squatter camp areas. First of all, we'll train you in cross-cultural evangelism, that you'll have an idea of what these people are thinking when you're talking to them, so that you understand the psyche, and then teach you how to discuss the gospel with them. And then you can send out 20, 30, 40 people in different directions, and they go and speak to people on the streets and that sort of thing. Other things we do is, for instance, we're running a crusade now. In December, we've got a gospel preacher from America that's coming over. He's going to be our guest speaker at the crusade. And so we're preparing for that now, so he comes over alone. Other times I've taken 3 men together and we're going to the Congo together. And you're splitting between different churches. There are 1,000 churches in this denomination we're working with. And you're doing lectures at the college. You're doing other outreaches. You are preaching and teaching. You're doing radio. You're doing television, all that sort of thing. So there's lots of facets to it. We don't work like American missions where people specialize in a certain field and that's all they do. So you've got to get very with what's going on in the area. You've got to trust leaders that you've built relationships with over years to find out what the needs are. And so, for instance, the area where the truckload has gone in our food, they don't need Bibles. Bibles have been handed out for years there. It's the only thing that the missionary there hands out for free. Everything else gets paid for. So if there's $1 worth of wheat that's being handed out, they might only pay 5 cents for it. But it has to be a transaction. Otherwise, nobody cares about anything. The clothing you see us distribute, you might have to pay 15 cents for 3 items of clothing, but you've got to pay. And so we want them to not just take for granted that we're just handing out all the time. And so you're teaching, economics, you're teaching giving, you're teaching grace and everything through what you're doing and telling people. You can't assume anybody looks at your life and says, gee, you're so wonderful, I want to be a Christian. No, you've got to preach the gospel. Faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word. So we do lots of different things. It depends on who's coming and what the circumstances are. If it's a group of 100, then you've got to do a lot of dissemination into various areas. If it's 1 or 2 people, you can organize one crusade, one area, and that sort of thing. If you're 2 or 3 guys, 1 or 2 might have a university degree. We can go and teach at the Bible, at the university, and those are the sorts of things we get up to. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me this morning. It's been wonderful to be back. Thanks again for wonderful fellowship and making me feel so at home. Really appreciate it. And is somebody going to come forward and end off and close in prayer, or do I just... Okay, let's close in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much, Lord, for your wonderful grace. We thank you for choosing us to be your children. We thank you, Lord, again for the fact that you use us to disciple the nations. What a privilege. We pray, Lord, that we'll be faithful in that which you've called us to. We ask that your grace will abound in our lives. Give us wisdom, give us strength. We pray, Lord, that we'll worship you with every part of our being, and we pray this in Jesus' precious name. Amen.